Take 3. And action.
All right, here we go. Welcome to episode 108 of Nothing to Say, the Fans Podcast. We have a lot to get to and not a lot of time to get to it. We have some breaking news in the NFL, some injury reports we got to get to, NFL trade deadlines. We have a Move the Chain segment, power rankings, picks. We got a lot to get to. Before we get to that, just quickly, Sam, how was your week? How was your weekend of football? Niners got the win. Jimmy G played well.
Yeah, Jimmy G played really well. I think we'll talk about that a little later. I was a little worried there for our longtime listeners. My girlfriend, Jenna, who I'm now living with, she's a Bears fan. So Bears-Niners was kind of a little bit of a point of dissension between us as Justin Fields is scoring that 4th and 1 touchdown and Jenna's clapping right in my face. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there like, Eric Armstead, you heard him in your hands. And then when Fred Warner missed that tackle because Justin Fields did the spin move and the Bears went up and my girlfriend is just clapping and I'm like, I'm losing in fantasy. I'm losing in picks. And the Niners are losing to my girlfriend's team, which they shouldn't be losing to because the Bears suck. It was just so bad. But then Jimmy G decided to play well.
Yeah.
I did not rub that in her face. I was very gracious in victory.
Well, that run from Justin Fields, the one to the right where he turned around and came all the way back, that was impressive. He played well. He really did. He
opened my eyes, man. His ability we hadn't really seen his ability to run and escape out of the pocket
because they hadn't been designing anything for him. I think in his first 2 games, he had like less than 5 designed runs.
Yeah. Did he have 8 in like the 3rd most snaps or something like that ever rookie quarterback? Like Trey Lance, who started in one game, had more design runs.
Right, exactly.
Than Justin Fields.
The question that I heard a lot this week was, is it a coincidence that he had his best game when Matt Nagy wasn't there? And then the week before when Bill Lazor was calling plays and stuff, or was it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So it was like Matt Nagy's going to get fired eventually. So I don't think anybody's going to really have to worry about that. At least that's the sentiment that I keep hearing, is that he's going to get fired at the end of the season. So.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the Bears. I mean, they're such an irrelevant team at this point this season.
Yeah. She's standing right there.
Yeah, she's sitting over there.
You're in trouble. All right, so we have to open the show with a really serious event that actually just broke. Today is Tuesday. So when this episode comes out, on Thursday, the news will be a little bit old, but it actually, for us, it literally just came out like an hour ago. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about the Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver, Henry Ruggs. I'll read this. This is right from the New York Times website. You can go find this article if you'd like. It's online. It's titled "Raiders Receiver to be Charged in Fatal Car Crash." Henry Ruggs III, the Raiders' top receiver, will be charged with driving under the influence, the police said, after his involvement in a car crash that killed 1 person in Las Vegas Tuesday morning. So I will read this quick thing from the New York Times. It won't take very long. Just give you guys, in case you haven't read the story yourself, here is right from the New York Times. So it says, Raiders receiver Henry Ruggs III faces drunken driving charges in connection with a car collision early Tuesday morning in Las Vegas that left 1 person dead. The car crash happened early Tuesday morning when a sports car Ruggs had been driving hit an SUV, police said. According to a statement released by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police, the fire department was called to the scene where it found 1 person dead in the struck car. Ruggs, the police said, remained on scene and showed signs of impairment, adding in the statement that Ruggs would be charged with driving under the influence, resulting in death. No charges have been filed yet, according to Clark County District Attorney's Office. According to the Clark County District Attorney's Office, if convicted, the charge, a felony, Ruggs, 22, faces 2 to 20 years in prison. He was transported to the University Medical Center in Las Vegas, where the police said he was treated for injuries that were non-life threatening. So that is the story from the New York Times and about Henry Ruggs and the incident that happened earlier this morning, Tuesday morning. So before we even talk about the football thing, we have to make note that one, the football piece of this is the least important out of all of this. What happens? Well, I mean, first of all, the person that got killed in this car crash, obviously you never want anybody, first of all, you never want any car accidents to happen. And if they do escalate to this matter, you just hope and pray that, the people involved in it don't get killed. And, in this situation, the driver or one of the people in the Strux cars did unfortunately pass away. And so before we even get to that, we would like to offer our condolences to that family. We obviously can't help in really any way, but other than offering our condolences. And it always feels weird talking about the football side of stuff like this, because like I said, it really is the least important thing in all of this, but it is something that needs to be talked about. And this is, same thing with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. I mean, what's happening to him is much more important and much more serious than anything that is related to football. But for the fact of the matter is, they are in the NFL, and this will affect, the Raiders as an organization. So we are going to talk about that, mainly because there isn't much. I mean, this just happened. So as it stands right now, we really don't have a lot of information. So the only thing that we can really do is offer, like I said, our condolences to the family and everybody that was affected. So for the football side of this, when I think for the Raiders, it to have this on top of already the situation that was going on with John Gruden, 2 weeks ago, and then to have this happen for the team is really just like the worst thing that you could imagine happening to a team that was already facing something completely unprecedented. And then to have this, which for all intents and purposes, it was self-inflicted, really. And as a fan, for the past week, I thought about the 2016 team, and I was just talking to my dad about this a while ago, the 2016 team, and, they ended up 12-4, and they ended up in the playoffs. And it was some midpoint during the season, my dad and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, we kind of have to, at some point, acknowledge the fact that they're not winning these games because it's a fluke. Like, they're actually good. And then with this team, I feel like I haven't gotten there yet. Like, I really want to be there. I want to be, okay, they're good, and we really, really have a chance. Because I do think that this team is much different than the past 2 years when, the Raiders have started off really hot and then tailored off at the end. I really do feel like this team is different than those other two teams. But I've been so apprehensive to really jump on ship and go, okay, we are looking dead center right for the playoffs. And it was this week when the Chargers lost and the Bengals lost and the Browns lost. The Raiders are still the number 2 seed. They have a whole game lead on the AFC West. The Chiefs looked bad against the Giants. They ended up winning, but they looked bad doing it. I was sitting there and I was really getting excited about the Raiders for the first time this entire season, going, oh my God, like, everything that they want is right there in front of them for them to take. They're 4-1 in AFC play right now. So they have a stranglehold on not only the division right now, but also kind of an upper echelon spot if they want it, because they have that interconference record right now. And they're heading into a very winnable game against the Giants. Then they hit really 3 back-to-back games against some tough teams. But I mean, everything that they want is right there in front of them. And to have your guy who has such a specific job on the team, who is really important to the team and has really come into his own, to have this happen it's going to be really interesting to see what they do moving forward without Ruggs, because he ain't coming back. The only thing that I can think is going to make the most sense is that Zay Jones, their other speedster, is now going to take over the Henry Ruggs kind of role. But nobody can run like Ruggs. I mean, Ruggs is a top 3 in terms of speed, wide receiver in the league. And he was playing a vital role for the Raiders this year. And I know I've been talking for a while, but it's one of those things where, as a fan, for me, I just started to feel really excited about this team. And now I'm right back to going, crap, I have no idea what's going to happen to them. And it's really unfortunate as a fan of the team, which again is the least important part about this whole thing. And it feels selfish to talk about it this way, but it's just, it's unfortunate all around. So.
Yeah, it's off. I mean, I don't even know if we're qualified to go into it and talk about what it is in the real world context. I mean, it is just awful that someone happened to lose their life because of such a poor decision that someone makes in it. I mean, it happens every single day, and it's awful that that someone could literally have just been driving home from work or driving to work, doing everything right, stopping at a stop sign, and they hadn't taken anything, they hadn't drank anything, they were completely fine, and then boom, they get the repercussions of someone else's mistake. I mean, it's just awful. So putting that real world impact out there that's the biggest thing through this. I mean, who cares if Henry Ruggs plays or not again? I mean, the fact that someone isn't alive with us is just the worst part of this. And then not to diminish that fact by just moving on to the football aspect, but I think Jason and I are going to do just our best to just speak solely about what's happening on the field. And that's all we can do, right? So, I mean, man, you would know it better than I would. I have that sort of same feeling about this team because looking at the record, they're 5-2. They have really impressive wins against some teams, but there's still that hesitancy for me to proclaim them as one of the best teams. Like, I can't put them with Buffalo. I can't even put them with Baltimore, who they beat. I still think the Chargers might even be better than them, despite their records. And then this, I think this event and its distraction that comes of it is a bigger impact than losing Henry Ruggs on the field.
Oh, you're saying, yeah. So, okay, I get what you're saying.
So I'm thinking, even
the non-football side is going to distract people more than actually not having him on the field.
That's what I'm thinking. So
yeah, no, I think
his role, and maybe it's just based off of what his role is created as, but I feel like it really wasn't that big of, like, he would break out and have a couple big games, right, where he would catch these big, huge plays that just totally catch the defense off guard. But those games were few and far between within a season. And we're talking about the 12th overall pick. I feel like this team definitely has the weapons to overcome what Henry Ruggs was. And I think also a good big time factor in this is they already have shown that they're able to put a distraction behind them with the John Gruden thing and come out stronger on the other side. I mean, this is a strong group of guys. I feel like this event, I almost think like it'll just strengthen that bond of this team even more.
Well, and see, the reason why you can say that is because after the John Gruden thing, everything that you heard coming from the players, and that's the most important thing, but everything that you heard coming from the players is, because it doesn't really matter what reporters say about, they said this and they said, when the players were being interviewed after the John Gruden incident, everything that you heard from all of the players is saying, what happened was terrible, but in terms of how it affected the team, it actually kind of helped them in a way. It they were able to use it as a rallying point. And if anything, the word that they kept using was closer. Everybody said they got closer. And the thing during the summer was reports were coming out of, how positive the team was and how much they really enjoyed being around each other. Like they were close during the summer. And then to have that strengthen that event with John Gruden that happened, and then to have them get even closer with this, it's going to be interesting because
this is one of their guys.
It's one of their, that's what, yeah, I was about to say, it's one of their own. And I know that John Gruden was one of their own, but it's different when it's literally the dude who's on the field with you. That's different. So in terms of Ruggs' role on the team, it's not like he was averaging 100 yards a game or anything like that. What he did though, with his presence on the field, because of his unique skill set, he was somebody that if the defense left him alone for one play, Derek was going to find him, and it was going to be a 70-yard completion. Derek, there's a bug flying around everywhere.
It's funny because Jenna is just laying on the carpet right now, just
really?
laying on the floor.
What
are you doing?
But
she's having floor time. All right.
Anyway, so we'll go back. So because of Ruggs' specific skill set, because of how ridiculously fast he was one of those players that whenever he was on the field, you absolutely had to dedicate somebody to him. And at the very least, even if he wasn't getting the ball, he was always a distraction, which if he was going deep, that freed some stuff up underneath. It would open up maybe some lanes in the run game if he also took a safety with him. And he was always the big play action threat guy. Now we have Zay Jones, and Zay Jones is also ridiculously fast. So I think that they could slide him into Henry Ruggs' spot, and now not problem solved, but problem at least filled for now. If I think that Zay's a good receiver. He's proven to be a good receiver for the Raiders. The thing that I kept hearing people clamoring about was go trade for Odell.
Or Michael Thomas.
Or somebody like that. But I think the trade deadline, one, is already gone. And two, I mean, I don't know. Technically Darren Waller is their number one wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for all intents, I mean, he's a tight end, but
and then Renfro and then Edwards. I mean,
truthfully, Renfro is their number two.
So let me read you this here. So he had 24 yards their last game against Philly. 97, 51, 60, 78, and he's getting 3 to 4 catches a game. You can fill that.
That's what I'm saying. My guess is that on Sunday we're going to see Zay Jones out there. We're probably going to see Brian Edwards out there much more. He was their number 3. I mean, if it was Ruggs, Renfro, Waller normally out there, then Edwards would come in to kind of be that, because Edwards is a big dude.
He's a possession receiver for sure. He's a more out wide guy than Renfro and even Ruggs were.
Yeah, Brian Edwards is their big wide receiver. So I imagine he's going to be out on the field more. And whatever plays they had Ruggs in, I'm going to guess it's going to be Zay Jones. I'll be surprised if it's anybody else, because Edwards and Ruggs do not do the same thing. So I don't think you could add it. I don't think anybody would try to slide Edwards into Ruggs' spot. So Zay really is the only person who I could think would be involved in that. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kenyon Drake more. Maybe they don't use. Maybe if Ruggs was serving as a distraction for somebody on a play, maybe you see more Kenyon Drake and having him also be some sort of distraction out of the backfield. And I would imagine that when they take one weapon away, they're going to start using more of everybody now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zay Jones, like I said, is in there. Kenyon Drake is in there more. And maybe they start bringing in Foster Moreau and they get creative with 2 tight ends, because Foster Moreau, when Darren Waller was out, had a huge game. And I love our tight end. Foster Moreau could be a starting tight end for probably any other team in the league, minus Kansas City and San Francisco. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do, and they have a very winnable game against the Giants coming up, and if they do that, then they're going to be 6-2, and going into their next 3 games, which are really tough. I believe it is the Chiefs is one of those. I believe the Bengals is another one, and then who is the Cowboys? Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
That's
so
tough.
there you go.
That's a tough 3.
That's a tough 3 games.
I think this could either go one of 2 ways for the Raiders. Either this is another event that this team just mentally can't overcome, and they just fall and splinter and lose the lead in the AFC West, or they get better, and this just totally they just totally harden as a group, and I mean technically become the most mentally tough team in the NFL. I don't know what other team could go through these 2 big time distractions.
If the Raiders make the playoffs after having both of these things happen, that's going to be really impressive.
Yeah.
And it's going to serve them well in the playoffs. So, and honestly, if nothing else, they've shown that they can be a really resilient team. So again, like we said a bunch, the football side of it is the least important part of all of this, with the limited amount of details that we have, plus Sam and I not really being fully qualified to talk about the other stuff, it was just something we had to talk about. But again, we again and again, we have to continue to stress that the football side of it is really not that important. And we offer, our condolences to the family. We are going to have to move on. There is no easy way to transition from any of that, but we do have the rest of the show that we have to get to. So we're going to try to get through these segments as quickly as we can, as best as we can. And the first one that we're going to start with is the scores from week 8 in the NFL season. So let me pull that up really quickly. So here we go. Just a quick recap. Obviously, Thursday Night Football is tonight. Just a recap of everything that happened last week. The Packers unseated the Cardinals in terms of the unbeaten seat that they had. They beat the Cardinals 24-21. The Panthers beat the Falcons 19-13. The Titans, in a wild game against the Colts, win 34-31. But they also lose Derrick Henry in the process. We'll get to that later. Bills beat the Dolphins 26-11. The Jets have a day. Mike White beat the Bengals 34-31. It was the day for backup quarterbacks in the NFL in week 8. The Steelers beat the Browns 15-10. I don't know what's going on with the Browns. The Eagles. Okay, so my take on the Lions winning that game, that did not age well.
That was the coldest take.
that did not age well. So the Eagles, Jalen Hurts only threw the ball 14 times. And they rushed for, let me pull this up real quick. It was 236 yards on the ground for the Eagles. So they beat the Lions 44-6. And then the Rams beat the Texans 38-22. Game was not that close. I think it was 38-0 at one point. So don't let anybody tell you that game was as close as the score is. Sam's 49ers beat Jenna's Bears 33-22. Patriots beat the Chargers 27-24. Seahawks over the Jaguars 31-7. The Saints beat the Buccaneers 36-27. Tell you what, the last team Tom Brady wants to see in the playoffs is the Saints. There was a stat. It was a very ESPN stat, but I think when Brady has 3 games, at least in a Tampa Bay uniform, I think, where if you combine his interceptions and sacks, they add up to 5. All 3 of those games were against the Saints. So I don't know what it is about the Saints, but they have Brady's number right now. The Buccaneers, so the Buccaneers fall to the Saints 27-36. Washington loses to Denver 17-10. I didn't watch that game, but from what I heard on ESPN, apparently it was the ugliest football game ever. So
what do you expect from those 2 teams?
Yeah, we'll move on from that. Cowboys beat the Vikings. Cooper Rush have a day again. they were backup quarterbacks, 20-16 over the Vikings, and the Chiefs barely beat the Giants, 20-17. So a lot of interesting storylines coming out of Week 8. The two big ones that we need to get to more than any of the scores is the two major injuries that happened. So the first one we'll start with is the Derrick Henry injury for the Titans. So just a headline on ESPN right now reads, Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry to undergo foot surgery, no timetable for return. So he's out for a while. And
he's out all year.
Could be out for the rest of the season, depending on how deep the Titans went in the playoffs. But that's the caveat. Do you have any faith that Tennessee is going to do any damage in the playoffs without Derrick Henry?
No, I mean, this team is, what was the stat? I think it's like he produces like 70% of all the Titans offensive production.
Something like that, yeah.
Which is for a running back. And he's been doing this for years now. Like, their system is so built on his success in what he's able to do. They can't just recreate it. I mean, yes,
no.
they picked up Adrian Peterson, but maybe Adrian Peterson 10 years ago could have recreated it, not now.
So I don't know, obviously, what the implications for trade was going to be. And I think I don't know what names people were throwing around. Obviously, Adrian Peterson is who they signed. I wouldn't be surprised if they found somebody else. So obviously the trade deadline is come and gone. But honestly, the first name that came to my head was Alexander Mattison from the Vikings. For those of you who play fantasy, I'm sure you're aware of who Alexander Mattison is. Every time Dalvin Cook goes down, he steps in and I swear he gets 100 yards every time, every single time. He's a good, solid running back. And so he was the first person that I thought of that Tennessee could go after and get. I wouldn't have been surprised if they went after Dearness Johnson, the Browns' third-string running back. He proved what he could do in a run-dominant offense. So those are the first two names that I thought of. I really thought that we were going to see one of those guys leave and head to Tennessee. The question that I have for you, honestly, is going into Monday, I think there was, at least from what I had heard from ESPN and a lot of the reporters, just, the sentiment that I had heard about Tennessee was watch out for them as a Super Bowl favorite. Because if you look back at their recent games, so they beat the Colts in overtime, which was always going to be a tough game. One, because the Colts are better than their record says.
They're 2-0. They're 2-0 against the Colts now.
They're 2-0 against the Colts now. It was a divisional game. They waxed the Chiefs. It was 27-3. And then they beat the Bills. So in their last three games, they played three. And I guess we really can't call the Chiefs a superpower in the AFC anymore. But they beat probably the AFC favorites in the Bills. They beat the Chiefs for what it's worth. And then they beat a really tough divisional opponent on the road in overtime. And so I know that they lost earlier in the season to the Jets, but Tennessee was really shaping up to be somebody who legitimately you could see coming out of the AFC as the representative for, the AFC in the Super Bowl. And that's just, it's gone.
Well, I think a part of that too was because this team's pretty much the same roster that it's been, apart from adding Julio Jones and I think revamping that defense a little bit. But just their they showed a little bit more balance this year than years past. Their passing attack looked a little bit more explosive. AJ Brown is looking like a top 10 wide receiver. Julio Jones would give you spectacular catches every now and then. It was just Ryan Tannehill and his uber efficient play was complementing Derrick Henry and his historic season that he was having so well. That's why it made the most sense. And they had just beaten Buffalo. They dominated the Chiefs. I think it's no surprise that everyone stamped them in as maybe the team that guys would have to go through in the AFC if they wanted to get the Super Bowl, just because of how many ways they could beat you, I think is the biggest thing. Like Ryan Tannehill could beat you if you stack the box against Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry could go for 250 and 3 touchdowns and beat you.
Right. And so besides their first game against the Cardinals, where they only put up 13 points, they put up 33, 25, 24, 37, 34, 27, 34. Their offense, and I've said it on the show a handful of times, in terms of matchups, they were I was penciling them in as maybe the toughest matchup for any defense in the league, just because it's like, okay, well, we're going to stack the box against Derrick Henry because that's their workhorse. And then Ryan Tannehill is okay. So you stack the box. Well, what are you going to do with, Brown and Jones and Ryan Tannehill? Well, you can't really stack the box because you're going to have to dedicate at least a little bit of extra help to those two guys. And Tannehill has been playing really well. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, take away one, the other one's going to get you. And the most obvious one was going to be Derrick Henry. The problem is that even with teams trying to stop Derrick Henry, it wasn't working. I think he was 300 yards above any other running back in the league, and he has 10 rushing touchdowns.
And he does a lot of his damage late in the game, in the fourth quarter and in overtimes if they get there, because imagine trying to tackle that guy for 4 straight hours every single play. You might do it once and limit him to a 2-yard gain, but he's still coming. Like, there was no slowing down in Derrick Henry's game. Like, he was just a monster. And it's truly sad that he's not going to be able to break the single season rushing record.
Because he probably would have had it.
Well, with the extra game, but I think he was on pace anyway to beat it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where that's got to be the most damning thing as a defense, to know that Tennessee is going to run at you and there's nothing you can do. And
we got to put this out there too, though, because if Tennessee were to finish as a 1 seed, Derrick Henry could have been league MVP. That's how great of a season he was having. So, I mean, Tennessee just lost their most valuable player from the team.
Go ahead.
I mean, we have to put that value out there and really emphasize that big time, because he was so uber valuable to that team. I think they still make the playoffs especially because of that 2-0 record that they have over Indianapolis. I think they win that division, but it might be a little bit of a limping in. Like, you're going to see flashes of the Titans beating some bad teams, but I think still this team is just irreversibly damaged a little bit, and it's not even their fault. I mean, it's just an injury.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and I think you said it in terms of highlighting how valuable he is. Outside of a quarterback, this is the biggest loss for any team in the league, for any player, honestly.
Maybe Aaron Donald for the Rams. I think what he's doing this year is pretty crazy, but
maybe Kamara for the Saints. But I mean, Derrick Henry is Tennessee's offense. He is. And, like I said, to have a team, I don't know if there's any, maybe Aaron Donald. Okay, I might give you that. But
I think Henry's still up there. He's definitely
because the thing that I was trying to say really is that if you take away a quarterback, because quarterbacks are disproportionately important to every other player, but excluding them, there's very few position players in the league where you'd say, oh, he's gone, they're doing nothing. Devontae Adams, maybe, especially this year.
You can't say that. They just won without him.
Right. But if that, who knows if that was sustainable, but I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
But with Derrick Henry, it's like he's gone. The Titans are gone.
I don't think they're gone. I just don't think they're definitely not nearly as formidable as they were. I think they can plug Jeremy McNichols in and Adrian Peterson. I think they'll still have success on the ground because of that, because of the philosophy and the offensive scheme that they have. I think they'll still have success. They're not going to be putting up 800 rushing yards in 6 weeks, but they're still going to have success.
Well, and when I say gone, I mean more gone from immediate Super Bowl conversation right now.
Yeah. And
not gone as,
Super Bowl talks were even tough with Derrick Henry.
True.
Yeah.
And then the other big injury was the Jameis Winston injury. So this is from ESPN. New Orleans Saints quarterback Jameis Winston has torn ACL. Head coach Sean Payton confirms. So that really sucks because he was in the middle of rewriting the narrative about himself. He was having a good season. I think he only had like 3 interceptions so far, something really minuscule like that. He was playing really well. He was playing his Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. So they ended up winning, but you know, he wasn't there to finish
He was
it out.
playing well. He was playing well
He
too.
was playing well. The name that I immediately thought of in my head for who the New Orleans Saints probably wanted was Marcus Mariota from the Raiders. But the thing about that is Mariota has a no trade clause, so he would have to want to go there. That was the first name that came to my head.
How does Mariota have a no trade clause
I don't know.
as a backup quarterback?
Look, I'm not mad that we have him, but I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if that call was made. I don't remember if it came from the NFL or if it came from Bleacher Report, but Philip Rivers came out and said he listened to calls from the Saints. It'll be really interesting to see what they do. I mean, they have Trevor Siemian on the roster. He came out, he played well, but
Yeah.
I mean, the Saints are 5-2 and in a legitimate spot to make the playoffs.
They need one guy they need to call if he still wants to play, and that's Cam Newton. They need to get him in the door because what they were doing, yeah, Jameis was playing well, but that was such like a limited volume passing attack from what they were, and that would fit perfectly with what Cam is now. And Cam gives you that added bonus. He's going to get you 12 rushing touchdowns if you get him in the red zone. Like that is an ultimate ability that him and very few players at the position possess. And if you just say, hey, you're going to throw 15 times this game, that's our plan. And we're going to let Mark Ingram, who looks really good in a Saints uniform again, and Alvin Kamara just eat, then I think this would be a no-brainer slam dunk for New Orleans.
Yeah. And keep in mind, one of the teams, and this isn't happening this year, but keep in mind, one of the teams that Russell Wilson during the offseason said that he would in that list of teams that he'd like to go to, the Saints was on that list. Just live in a world for a second where Russell Wilson goes to the Saints next year, and it's that offense and that defense right now they're like a top 10 defense in the league.
Their defense is carrying them.
Yeah, absolutely. With Wilson and Kamara and and hopefully Michael Thomas for their sake, Mark Ingram, who looks really well, just that would be a nightmare for the league. I mean, yes, the Bucs would be the ones who, might be able to shut the door on him a little bit, but that would be a nightmare.
Well, and you give him maybe the best play caller of all time in Sean Payton. I mean, Russell Wilson's never been in an offense that complex as Sean Payton's.
Right. So, and
that's never going to happen, though.
You don't think so?
No, Russell Wilson's not leaving Seattle. There's no.
I'd like to live in a world where he goes to the Saints and he plays well. And I have a little bit of an affection for that team because of Drew Brees, but I think it would be interesting. I mean, to be on a team that, I don't know, to be paired up with, it would be, like I said, it would be a nightmare for the NFC as a whole. So, you know what else might be a nightmare for the NFC? Von Miller going to the Rams. And that was a gigantic move that happened at the NFL trade deadline. So let's take this thought and we'll move it into Roll the Chains. We'll roll the intro on that real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this Von Miller thing. So let's hit the intro. I can't wait to get your answers on this. Okay, so first question for you on Move the Chains, and it has to do with Von Miller. So let's do this. Are the Rams now the Super Bowl favorite after the Von Miller move? Move the Chains or punt?
Yeah, I think they are. We've talked about, this is going to be the second time now that we've talked about the Rams as the Super Bowl favorite, and they just got better. They just got an all-pro at maybe the best player at his position in the NFL as an outside linebacker, and you pair him with Aaron Donald. Those are two guys that you have to double. You don't have enough linemen to double two guys and then block Leonard Floyd.
Yeah. And then not to mention they have Jalen Ramsey on the back end too.
It doesn't even matter who they have on the back end because quarterbacks are going to be hit right as they're thrown, so the ball's going to look like a dying duck in the air. A freaking defensive lineman could just go up and put their paws on it.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. I would move the chains on that as well. I think the Rams are definitely the Super Bowl favorite right now. I mean,
what does the GM of the LA know? Like, what does he know about Denver and their GM? Why would Denver give?
What dirt does he have?
Why would Denver give Von Miller up, their franchise quarterback, their franchise player, for a second-round pick and a third-round pick, and then they're paying $9 million of his $9.7 salary this season? So the Rams are getting a guy for free, an all-pro player for free. They don't give a shit about freaking a second-round pick and a third-round pick. Who cares about that when you win a Super Bowl?
The thing is that they've gone all in. They're all in.
They don't have a first, second, or third in next year's draft.
Yeah.
Do they care? No.
Not if they win this Super Bowl. And right now,
don't get why Denver made this trade. It's because I guess they didn't want to pay Von Miller in the offseason, but it's not like it's just this reminds me of the Dodgers getting Max Scherzer and Trey Turner for like nothing. It's like, why are good teams just given the best?
The rich, the rich get richer.
Like, why? This just puts so much pressure on teams like Arizona, teams like Tampa Bay, teams like the Niners. The Niners are freaking effed in this division because they have to play the Rams still twice this year, a new vaunted Rams team.
Oh, that's right. They haven't played them.
And Arizona just lost JJ Watt for the year. So Arizona was the one that was like leading this arms race, acquiring talent, AJ Green, JJ Watt, Zach Ertz, all of these guys were coming to Arizona. And then the Rams were like, yeah, hold on real quick. Let's just boom. Oh, you got Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson and poor Jimmy Garoppolo who can't move in the pocket. Well, Aaron Donald this way, Von Miller this way, boom. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jalen Ramsey sitting back here to whoever you throw.
Oh, that's just ridiculous. I'm more mad at Denver for making this trade because it's so boneheaded to the rest of the league. If I was an owner of like Tampa Bay, I would call Denver and be like, what are you trying to do to us?
Right.
Like, you just made such a boneheaded move for the rest of the league. What are you trying to trade him to freaking New York? You could have got better draft picks.
Right. Well, I'm sorry that you are so mad about this, but I'm sure you were happy that the Cardinals lost, and at least to be able to see that Cardinals lose in your division. But with that thought in mind, with them losing to Green Bay, are you ready to declare them the best team in the NFC? Move the chains or punt?
We just said the Rams were the Super Bowl favorites, and they're in the NFC.
I know. Now,
so I have to punt.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So what?
The reason why I have this question on here is because regardless of what we think, I think people are going to look at least the sentiment that I heard. People look at this Cardinals game as they didn't have Devontae Adams, and they didn't have Al Lazard. They
didn't have a lot of guys. They
didn't have a lot of guys, and they still end up beating the Cardinals. So this is the reason why I put this in here is the first question was from me. This second question was more of what I've heard so far. And I kind of wanted to get your opinion, not on the Rams side of this, but on Green Bay side of this.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the Rams before the Aaron Donald or the Von Miller pickup, I think they were still better than Green Bay in what they've shown. But Green Bay has shown, I can't knock whatever Green Bay's done. They've resiliently beaten a lot of good teams in close games, and then they just went out and beat Arizona in a really close game as well. I mean, you can't knock the resume that Green Bay's had so far and the wins that they've put up. I think it's just the way the Rams have been able to dominate, and we kind of sort of expect that their ceiling is a little higher than this Green Bay team. I think that's just what propels the Rams ahead of them. And I still think Arizona's still in the mix for me in the NFC.
Yeah, Green Bay. So I think at this point, because I know you and I were a bit apprehensive to put Green Bay up on the pedestal that maybe other people were putting them on, and I think it's time to say that okay, no, they are a good team. Their defense is playing better than I think a lot of people thought, and Rodgers is playing at an MVP level again, as always. Devontae Adams is firmly planted as the number 1 wide receiver in the league. So Green Bay has got a lot of things going for him right now. So
yeah,
I agree with you in the sense that I think the Rams are still the number 1 team. So I would punt on this as well, but it was something that I heard a lot this week, and I feel like I didn't hear it. There was a lot of clamoring over the Rams, and I didn't hear a lot of clamoring over the Packers and not a lot over the Rams. So maybe because they played the Texans. So
I get it's probably just because of the shock of the fact that Green Bay actually was able to stick it out.
Do you want to talk about shock? Mike White throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and beating the Bengals. So here's another thing that I heard, at least in the earlier part of this week, is there a quarterback controversy in New York? So let me answer this.
Not if you ask New York fans. They don't want a quarterback controversy.
No. Let me answer this really quickly and say I'll punt on that one, at least from the standpoint of there really shouldn't be. I mean, you drafted Zach Wilson to be your guy. And the interesting thing, so I was listening to Get Up earlier in the week, and they actually, I was really happy that I like listening actually to Rex Ryan when he's on, because it's funny to listen to him talk about the game plan side of this. From his point of view, he was saying what the Patriots did to the Jets the week before, the Jets just took that game plan and went right in the Bengal game, and it worked. And it's a copycat league kind of thing, but they literally did everything that the Patriots did, offense and defense, and just said we're going to use it. And the sentiment that I heard from everybody on TV at that point was, why haven't they treated Zach Wilson the way that they treated Mike White in this game? Everybody was talking about how they've treated Zach Wilson as if he was a 20-year vet. And then they treated Mike Wilson Mike White, as if he was a rookie quarterback. And what do you know? They end up looking way better. So there shouldn't be a quarterback controversy in New York, because Zach Wilson's your guy, at least for the next 3 years, most likely. And yes, Mike White had a great game, but you would hope, if you're a New York fan, that he never has to play again.
I think you nailed it, man. I mean, just the difference of scheme that they put in. Zach Wilson, from all accounts, is a more talented quarterback than Mike White is. So why wouldn't putting him in the same situation, could he not equal those numbers or even have a bigger game than Mike White has in that situation? I think there's no doubt in my mind that Zach Wilson can. I think he's shown flashes this year. Yeah, has he shown some pretty tough moments, some pretty hard moments? Of course. I mean, he is in the worst situation out of any rookie quarterback. And we knew that going in. So now why are we just switching on it and being like, oh my gosh, Zach Wilson, what's wrong with him? No, we knew he was going to struggle from day one.
And for people who may sit back and go, well, isn't Trevor Lawrence in the worst situation? Well, the thing with Zach Wilson is, Zach Wilson is a rookie quarterback. So knock one against something he has to battle. There's a rookie head coach. There is a rookie play caller there. So you have all 3 of these things working against Zach Wilson. And they're just in a total rebuild of like the entire organization. So
and I think the Jets have less talent on their roster than the Jaguars do. I think that's what the
Yeah,
biggest thing that comes down to.
potentially, yeah. So
And Zach Wilson came out of nowhere to be the second overall pick this year. I mean, in a matter of through the combine process is when he established himself. Trevor Lawrence has been the number 1 overall pick since he graduated from high school.
yeah, and also here's the thing, another thing working against Zach Wilson. Zach is in New York and Trevor's in Jacksonville. Nobody talks about Jacksonville or the Jags or Trevor Lawrence. Everybody talks about the Jets in New York, and the New York media is rough. So that's 4 strikes heading against Zach Wilson into the situation. So he is by far in the roughest spot. So on the other side of that coin, it was the Bengals. So the question that I have for you is, does this Bengals loss make you any less confident in this team? So if you're punting, then you're saying you're less confident.
No, it doesn't make me. So I guess move the chains on. Yeah, it doesn't make me less confident in there, but I think they just underestimated their opponent, man. It looked like they were just looking past this game and this opponent in the Jets, and I feel like the Jets didn't do anything that special. Like there was a lot of checkdowns to running backs out of the backfield, and it just seemed like a lot of missed tackles on the part of the Cincinnati. I'm more looking at the Cincinnati defense because they had just played so well against Baltimore the week before, and then to come out against a less talented Jets team and stink it up like that is just, I think, coming down to a lack of focus, I guess is really what it comes down to for this team and that defense. I think Cincinnati's offense, which can be at times one of the best and one of the most explosive offenses in the league, I think maybe lost focus as well. I mean, just they didn't look nearly as sharp as they did against Baltimore. I think that just comes down to playing down to the level of your competition, which is so worrisome. But it's expected because they're such a young team. They were not supposed to be in this position right now.
Yeah. And I think the way that I look at it is, look, it's happened to teams this season. Buffalo, they lost their opening game. Yeah, they lost their Tennessee. I was getting to them too. Yeah, so Tennessee, Buffalo lost. I don't really know if we can put the Raiders on this pedestal, but they lost to the Bears.
That was a bad loss. That was a bad loss, though. The way they got dominated by a bad Bears team.
I mean, I know that there was all of that stuff surrounding them that week, and that probably played a big role in it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there are instances where, it's just not your day. Stuff does not fall your way. And that was one of those instances. I think I agree with you. So I don't think the Bengals are in any kind of trouble. It was a bad week.
Yeah. I mean, Green Bay losing week 1 against the Saints in an awful week. They look completely different 7 weeks from now or 7 weeks from then. So I'm not worried about Cincinnati, man. I think they're just a young team and they're figuring out how to win. And sometimes you lose to the Jets. Like last year, Raiders, who were way better than the Jets, almost fluffed it a little bit. It happens. It happens every year.
Are the Jets that team? They just surprised you.
I mean, you thought Detroit was going to be that team, but
I wanted that to be true. Oh man. All right, so let's move into our power rankings. We have a little bit of a different thing going on for this power rankings. Normally we do us versus ESPN, but Sam made his list and then I made my list, and that's sort of how we do it. And then normally they've been relatively similar enough that we can make enough tweaks to where we can both feel good about it. There was just so much different on our list that we just said, screw it, we're each going to do our own list. I sent
Jason my list, and he didn't say this to me, but I think what was going on in his head was he looked at it, said, I don't agree with that at all. He created one, sent me it. I looked at it and I was like, I completely disagree with this list.
Yeah.
So then I texted him and he was like, well, I don't like your list either. So it was just, so we could not find common ground on this one.
No. So, and that's fine. So we'll we'll give you guys our list. I have gone back and I've looked at my list and I've made my final list that I feel good about.
Do you want to read yours first?
Let's flip a coin. Here we go. So if this is actually a
Go
ball
Raiders.
marker.
Yeah.
This is a ball marker. So I'll be the Shield and you'll be Raiders. So
Yeah, gross.
you're first. All right. You're first.
All right, cool. So from 10 to 1 of
Okay, here we go.
Sam's week 8 power
It'll
rankings.
pop up for you guys.
Oh, will it now? I hope I do that. Number 10, we have the New Orleans Saints. 9, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm just going to quickly go through this and then Jason and I will pick out which teams we want to talk about. 8, I have the Raiders. 7, I have Tampa Bay. 6, I have Tennessee. 5, I have Dallas. 4, I have Green Bay. 3, I have the Rams. 2, I have the Bills. And 1, I still have the Arizona Cardinals.
I think the two teams that we have similar are the Titans and the Bucks. I think everything else is different. So, all right. So for my list, I went back and forth between the Saints and the Ravens. And I put the Ravens at 10 because I just have more confidence in Lamar Jackson than
Your list is already wrong.
No, so I put the
at number 10. You were wrong at number 10.
I put the Ravens at 10. I understand that there might be some personal bias in this, but I think the Raiders belong in a top 10 list right now with their schedule and how they've played. So I put the Raiders at 9, and I put them ahead of the Ravens just because they beat them. The Bengals at 8. I put the Bucks at 7, Tennessee at 6, and then my top 5 is a lot different than Sam's. So number 5, I have the Cardinals at 5. I have the Bills at 4. I have the Packers at 3. I have the Cowboys at 2, and then I have the Rams at 1. So that is my list, and it definitely is better. I think I put more thought into it than this guy over here. But
so where do you want to start? You want to start bottom to top?
Let's do our top 5. Let's do our top 5 right now.
Okay, but the Saints have to be in.
Okay, so here's the reason. So I actually put them in initially. The only reason why I took them out, and we've said before that we have to take into account that the way that we're doing this is kind of like power rankings. So we're looking at what we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. So here's the reason why I didn't put them in there. Because Trevor Siemian played during that game, I sort of lumped him into the rest of that performance. I understand that they beat the Buccaneers, but I think if Jameis would have played the whole game, I wouldn't have counted it against them, but I'm going to count Trevor Siemian being in that game against them from the sense that Lamar Jackson, to me, is obviously better than Trevor Siemian, and the Ravens, they have the same record. They both have good wins. Mm-hmm. So I really just started nitpicking each team, and it really just came down to the quarterback. So I just said, okay, Lamar Jackson over Trevor Siemian. I'll put the Ravens in there. Although I will say, anybody who puts the Saints in their 10, I completely understand. I almost put Ravens or Saints, and I was just like, part of me did it because I knew you had the Saints in there, but and we need a little bit of a difference. But I do think that the Ravens, especially now, are better than the Saints.
So I think I attacked this a little differently because I purely based it off of resume and who you've beaten and how you've beaten them and things like that. I mean, I think I said it earlier. I think the Ravens are a better football team right now than the Raiders are, but the Raiders beat them. So they have to be ahead of them for sure. Bengals beat the Ravens, so they're ahead of them. I think those two are a little bit on equal footing, but the Saints, I don't care if Trevor Siemian, Mike White, Teddy Bridgewater is starting for that team. They've beaten the Packers and the Buccaneers this year. Mm-hmm. And you can't knock that. For sure. Those are two of the most impressive wins this season for one team, and they're 5-2.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I understand that.
I almost want to put them higher.
I went back to the Ravens, and they have a win against the Chiefs. They have a win over the Colts, and then they destroyed the Chargers as well. So I don't know. I think it's tough. For me, it's a coin flip between either of those teams. I really would have no gripe with you having the Saints in there, and I think it really comes down to personal preference. But I elected to put the Ravens in there.
Okay, let's
we
go
didn't
to
have
the top five. Then.
Yeah, because we didn't have much discrepancy. You and I both had the Titans at 6 and the Bucks at 7, and I think you had the Bengals and.
Yeah, I just put the Raiders ahead of the Bengals, and you put the Bengals ahead of the Raiders.
Right.
It's
right. So it's really the top 5. We're completely different.
Okay, you gotta tell me about Dallas. I think we gotta get that out of the way first.
Okay, so the reason why I put Dallas up there, and the fact
you put
them
at 2.
I put them at 2. The fact that I put them at 2 comes down to the fact that they were able to win without Dak, and the fact that they were able to win without Dak, and I know that I might be talking out of both sides of my mouth here because I just dinged New Orleans for not having their quarterback. But I'm
glad you just addressed that.
Right. So the reason why I view it a little bit differently with Dallas is because the importance that Dak Prescott has to the overall, just the overall performance of Dallas is nowhere in the same stratosphere as what Jameis Winston means to the Saints. As you can see, Trevor Siemian still went out there and played well and was able to beat the Buccaneers. Dak has a completely different role and level of importance with Dallas. So to take him completely away for the entire game against a Minnesota offense that has been played really well, they're a solid team. They're not great, but to be able to not have Dak Prescott, who is playing at an MVP level type of season, to take him completely away for the whole game, to go on the road and win that game and to find a way to win, I think is really impressive. And if you look back at Dallas has given me no reason to believe, like if you look at their offense, they can run, they can pass, and their defense has been absolutely solid. They really do not have a glaring weakness on this team anywhere. Offense, defense, special teams. They've been playing really, really well.
What's their most impressive one?
I don't know.
The Chargers.
In front of me.
Yeah,
probably the Chargers game. Now. So, and then they had that really tough opener against the Buccaneers on the road that they lost. Yeah, their best win would be against the Chargers. So but that's why I put Dallas there.
We had Dallas at 5 or 6 last week, I think. No, we had them at 5 or 4 or 5, I think, last week.
Something in that range. Yeah, they were in our top 5.
I can't remember. And that win over Minnesota has propelled them with the Rams winning, the Bills on a bye, the Cardinals losing a close one against a really good Green Bay team, and Green Bay winning, and you had Dallas propel all the way to 2 based off of that win.
Well, I think they were only at 4 last week for us. So the Packers beat the Cardinals, so the Packers moved up. But the Cowboys have a more complete offense than the Packers. Their defense is better. The Bills were on a bye, right?
Yeah.
So the Bills were on a bye, so I didn't really want to mess with them. And the Cardinals lost, so I dropped them. And, the Cardinals and the Cowboys and the Packers, they all have 1 loss. So
and the Rams.
I have the Rams at number 1. So yeah, I felt fine putting Dallas up at 2 especially based on the events that transpired over week 8. I felt fine putting them at 2. So it'll be interesting to see when Dak comes back, though. If he's back next week or if he's back a week after. Dallas has the luxury of playing in a horrible division. I think at this point they're playing for the 1 seed in the conference, and not the division. So they have the luxury of knowing that they're for sure going to be in the playoffs. I'll look at their schedule to see if they can afford to rest him. Maybe the next game, if they're going to roll the dice on that. So they play Denver. They can rest him against Denver. I think they can afford to rest him. And then they play Atlanta. So they have
They
two
could-
games where he
could
can
really
get
rest
healthy.
him.
So, but no, I felt fine putting Dallas at 2.
So I think that's true. I think all 5 of these teams are from top to bottom are the best teams in the NFL. I think no doubt about it.
I
And
agree.
what
I think
they've
it's
shown-
them and everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what they've shown, especially now that Tennessee lost Derrick Henry, I kind of put that into the mix a little bit of putting them where they are.
I 100% agree with you. If Derrick Henry was still there, they'd probably be in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, with how well they were playing. I mean, it's tough. It's tough knocking one of those teams out. I guess you would have knocked out Arizona, which doesn't seem right. But Arizona still has a win over a healthy Tennessee team. They shellacked the Rams. I mean, I think losing a close game to Green Bay, yes, it's a tough loss because of how many players Green Bay was missing. But they got Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day. And this, again, Arizona was not expected to be up here right now. They weren't expected to be leading the conference. They are on the fly learning how to win. And I don't really knock them for losing against a good Green Bay team. I think it just more shows Green Bay is more for real than what people originally thought. I think that's what I took away mostly from that game. That's why I moved Green Bay. I leapfrogged them ahead of Dallas because I sort of took the same approach you did with Trevor Siemian playing for the Saints. With Cooper Rush playing for Dallas, I can't really take anything from that game. I guess you can take away that roster is deep, that defense can step up and play really well, but at the same time, it's Minnesota. Like Minnesota is a below average team. They're average to below average. They're nothing more than that. So I didn't want to penalize them for sure. I didn't penalize them. I just wanted to keep them pretty much in that general area. I think Green Bay definitely deserved to move up. The Rams, adding Von Miller is a big piece of this, but also taking care of business ever since they lost to Arizona. Buffalo as the clear-cut best team in the AFC, I think still deserves to be in that top 3 somewhere. And then Arizona, I feel like if they had got blown out by Green Bay, that might have pushed me off them. But right now, they still only have 1 loss. So I really don't think that knocks them from the top of the pedestal. They just had a game in hand to play around with the rest of the league.
Yeah, and I think honestly you could make a case for all of these teams to be number 1 if you wanted to.
Except for Dallas.
I disagree with that. I think maybe the only one who may not have as strong of a claim to the number 1 seed would be the Bills, maybe. Because the one thing that the Bills don't have is 6 wins, and every other one of these teams has 6 or 7 wins.
Well, that's just because of a bye.
Yes, but they also have 2 losses. Is really what I'm trying to say, and none of the other teams do. So it'll be interesting, but we'll let the public decide. I'll put it up, and we'll come back in a week, and we'll see exactly where we stand.
Hopefully, you don't have a lot of Dallas
who's
fans
listed
as your
better.
friends.
Alrighty. So those are our lists. I'll quickly read mine again.
Really quickly, if anyone's listening to this, I know so far only Bree's mom and my father are the only people to comment in the YouTube section. But if you guys have an opinion, comment down below and say that Sam's list was better, because I need the support all I can get. Jason has been abusing me on the side about my lack of football knowledge and his apparent just destroying me in the picks lately, and it's killing me.
I have been winning, but so I haven't been rubbing it in your face.
I need a slight win here. So if please just put a comment down. I feel like such an influencer right now. Just put a comment down. Say, oh yeah, Dallas should be there. Oh no, Dallas sucks. Oh, the Rams are really good. Blah 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 blah. Just put down a little bit of NFL opinion. I know I may even have a friend that likes the Colts. Maybe he can put in a plea about why the Colts should be really good. he's been watching a little bit, but yeah.
So what you're going to get is people who maybe don't know a lot about the NFL, who just like you putting actual comments in there. What I'm going to get are people who actually know football and are going to agree with my list. So we'll move on to picks. And speaking of knowing football, I think I'm 5-3 now, right?
That was already established.
Yeah, I know. I know. I like saying it, mainly because my fantasy team sucks. So, and your fantasy team is second, I think, right now in the league.
It's third. I just lost because the person that's number one right now is head and shoulders above the rest of the league.
Yeah.
And I ran into a freaking buzzsaw this weekend, especially no Devontae Adams really hurt. And I really need Nick Chubb to capitalize on the time that Kareem Hunt is out because I need him to be an RB1 and yada, yada, yada. No one wants to listen to my troubles in fantasy.
Well, I may be beating Sam in picks, but my team is nowhere near his right now at fantasy. So he can take that win and I'll take this win. But
yours is garbage.
It's not garbage. I have the most points scored against me.
Especially because Michael Williams isn't playing well as of late.
He didn't play well this week. I still ended up winning without him. Crazily. That T. Higgins pickup is looking like it's going to be a great pickup. So let's do some picks. I am currently 5-3. We're heading into week 9. We got the game tonight, the Jets and the Colts. I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes on the Mike Davis parade. I'm taking
White.
Colts. Mike White. Oh God.
So I've called him Mike Williams. You've called him Mike Davis.
When you texted me, did you said, did you see Mike White or whatever? And I was like, who the heck is that? He's like that's like the name of a custom character in Madden or something like that. Like a created player.
White.
A computer generated player is just like Mike White.
All right, so we got the Raiders and the Giants. I'll take the Raiders over the Giants.
Yeah, I guess I'll take Vegas.
I guess I will take the Saints over the Falcons.
Oh, I'm gonna take Atlanta.
Okay, have fun losing that. I'll take the Bills over the Jaguars.
Yeah, I'll take the Jaguars. No, I would take Buffalo.
Bengals and Browns. This is a huge game for both teams. I'll take Cincy at home to beat the struggling Browns.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cincinnati.
So the Patriots are going to go on the road to Carolina. I'll take Mac Jones and the Patriots on the road against the Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers finally get a win after 4 straight losses or something like that. But suddenly Patriots are playing really well. I think Bill somehow finds a way to really torment Sam Darnold, who he had good times against when he was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take Patriots.
Cowboys over the Broncos.
Yeah, even with a backup, I mean that makes it closer for me. But
It definitely makes it closer.
Denver's already lost to a backup this year when Browns backup. What's his name? Case Keenum beat them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll take Dallas as well. I'll take the Ravens over the Vikings as well.
Yeah.
So we have the Texans and the Dolphins. So
I'm gonna take Miami. I think I pick them almost every week.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure they only have one win. No, 2 wins. No, I think they only have one.
I think the only deciding factor for me on this is the fact that Miami is at home. I'm going to look quickly at Houston's schedule to see how they only scored 5 points against the Cardinals. They only scored 3 against the Colts. And they had 0 in the third. Yeah, okay, I'll take the Dolphins. I can't.
Houston, who do you think is the worst team in the NFL? Really quickly. Houston,
I tell you,
Detroit.
Miami is dramatically more disappointing than the Texans. But Probably the Texans,
Yeah,
I guess.
they played the worst.
But
Like, 'cause
polish
there's
a turd, it's still a turd.
Detroit's had moments where they should have won.
Yes, I would take Detroit over both of those teams.
Where did you just
take them.
go?
I wouldn't. I dropped this. I wouldn't take them. I wouldn't take them over the Eagles anymore. But I will take the Chargers over the Eagles this week, though.
Yeah, same. I think Chargers got a rebound. They're in a little bit of a skid.
I know it's great.
I know. Isn't it lovely?
Yeah, I'll take the Packers on the road in Arrowhead over the Chiefs.
So Chiefs are favored in this game, and I don't know how.
What? Really?
Yeah, I think that is easy money to be made.
This is the first ever Aaron Rodgers Packers and Patrick Mahomes meeting, by the way.
Because wasn't Rodgers injured the last time Green Bay played against?
Seriously favored in this game?
Pretty sure they were favored on Bing, I think.
They are a 2.5 point favorite. Holy smokes. Why? Look, we're not going to come on as gambling experts, but I feel like I would take that.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Okay, yeah, give me the Packers and the points. What about the Cardinals and the 49ers? 49ers are at home.
You know what? I actually feel pretty good about this game
Yeah.
in picking the Niners because of
You
how
know
well
that-
Jimmy G's played. And the last time they played, which Trey Lance started, they would have won that game if Jimmy G played. They would have been able to capitalize a little bit more on how well San Francisco's defense was playing. It's tough because their defense has been getting slaughtered by injuries. I think Fred Warner's okay, but he was even helped out the field and missed some time during that late in that game against Chicago. But I think they can get it done at home.
So Kyler Murray might not play in this game because of his ankle injury. That's going to be determined, unfortunately, after we make these picks on Wednesday. I think Wednesday or Thursday.
So you're going to take the dub if Kyler Murray starts, or are you going to take the L if he doesn't?
That's tough because I don't think that they would win without it. That's rough. That's rough.
That's rough. Well, I think play them.
I'm gonna take the Cardinals. So Titans and the Rams. I'll take the Rams.
You have fallen into my trap. Man, wouldn't have this been a good game if Derrick Henry was healthy?
Absolutely.
So interesting with Von Miller coming for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the Rams as well.
And then we have the Chicago Bears versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I'm taking Chicago.
No, you were supposed to take the Steelers. I actually really wanted to take Chicago.
I don't know, something about the fact. I mean, if Chicago leans into the fact that Justin Fields can run and doesn't just sit in the pocket and get destroyed by defensive linemen, I think they can put up, because realistically, Pittsburgh has to hold opponents to under 20 points for them to win, because that offense just isn't generating enough points. And Chicago actually has a good defense.
All right, I'm gonna take the Steelers.
Wow.
I'm gonna take the Steelers.
Why would
they're
trending?
They're trending up. They've won their last 3 games. Their defense is playing pretty well. They seem to have found a run game with Najee Harris, which, by the way, if you have him in fantasy like I do, you are loving.
Too bad your team sucks around him.
So I'll take the Steelers at home over the Bears. So that's 3 games. Perfect. Perfect.
I think
So,
I'm taking the underdogs in all 3 games.
good for you.
This is why I lose in the week.
Pat you on the back.
Wait. Let's see this. Yeah, New Orleans is favored without Jameis. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess Cardinals Niners is straight up.
Oh, okay. That's probably because people are hedging their bets on whether or not Kyler Murray's going to play.
Oh, maybe they haven't come out with the line for it. That's just weird. 3-4 team and a 7-1 team are straight up. That's kind of weird. And then obviously Chicago's the underdog against Pittsburgh at home.
Well,
so I guess I just have more cojones than you.
okay, I'm better, so it doesn't matter. All righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching episode 108 of Nothing to Say the Fans podcast. We really do appreciate it. We talked about a lot this episode. We've covered pretty much the whole arc of the NFL. We'll make sure we get in some NBA talk next week. There's just a lot going on in the NFL, so we had to talk about all that stuff. So
keep it short. The Kings are 3-3 as we're filming this, and it's kind of a disappointing 3-3 because De'Aaron Fox sucks.
Right now he does. Right now he does. So he needs to get his rear end gear. On the upside, the new City edition jerseys look pretty cool. So.
They're not the worst City jerseys in the league.
No, they're not.
I'll say that. They're actually kind of sick.
Not.
They took like different aspects from past jerseys or something like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. So, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you all next week.